What's up, guys? Welcome to another year. Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. We're in 2022 now. 2021, 2021 was such an interesting year for me. I had to challenge myself a lot. I had to push myself I had to push myself to do a lot of the things that I didn't want to do, a lot of things that I felt like made me uncomfortable, but also kind of let me sit in my comfort zone. I had to push myself to get out of those things, and it was a pretty challenging year for me. So I'm really happy to get into 2022, a new year, new beginning, and time to keep working and getting on the grind to try to achieve what we need to achieve. So today, on that note, Happy New Year. And today we are going to talk about how I studied for and passed the N10-008. The N10-008 is a Network Plus, the new Network Plus that just came out a couple of months ago. It's so new that I had to pre-order the book and I had to wait for it for about a week for it to show up on my doorstep to start studying for the exam. So we're going to talk about how I studied for and passed the N10-008. Now, full disclosure, I used to have the N10-007. I say used to because I let that certificate expire. And last year, I really wanted to take my CCNA, but as I say, last year was such a challenging year for me. I was not in the right state of mind. Also, I was just not ready to take the CCNA. So I kind of took other lower level certificates to get those out of the way. But this year, the CCNA is on the top of my list. It's the second certificates that I want to get out of the way after this Network Plus. So the first month of the year, I wanted to get the Network Plus out of the way, which I just did. And then the next one is going to be my CCNA. But back to the Network Plus. So the reason why I decided to take the Network Plus is because, one, I needed to discipline myself because I let my old Network Plus, my N10-00 certificate expire. And this is a way for me to discipline myself to say, you let it expire, you have to retake the new one. And next time you remember not to let it expire, right? Number two, I also wanted it to act as a refresher for me. Because I'm going into the CCNA next. I'm planning to take my CCNA around March, April, depending on how I feel about it. But mostly I don't want it, but for the most part, I don't want it to pass April. I want to get it out of the way before April. So I wanted to use the Network Plus as a refresher because the Network Plus and the CCNA are pretty similar, except the CCNA is a little bit of a higher level certificate and it's much more vendor specific, where the Network Plus is not. So as a way of getting that refresher into what I understand about networking, I decided to take the N10-008, which is the new Network Plus. So today, after that long rant, today in this video, we're going to talk about how I studied for and passed the new Network Plus, which is the N10-008. We're going to talk about the reading material, we're going to talk about the video, we're going to talk about everything I use as a whole to study for and pass the exam. It's 2022 and we are not taking no break. We're getting right to work. So let's roll the intro clip, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how I studied for and passed the new Network Plus, the N10-008. Let's go. So welcome back. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you need to do, as always in all of my video, I talk about it all the time, is to go to Google and type in CompTIA Network Plus N10-008 exam objective, or you can get it from the CompTIA website, and then just download that objective and then just kind of go through it and look at the objective and see what the exam require of you, or what the exam require you to know before sitting in front of the computer and taking the exam. So that's the first thing that you need to do, or get that out of your way, because that's very important. It gets you to understand what is needed for you to be able to pass the exam. And it also helps you too, because when you're studying, you can go through the exam objective and just check things off and say, these are the things that I understand, these are the things that I need to understand. And as you go through your study material, you can say, okay, I understand that, I understand that, and be able to kind of arrange yourself and arrange your thoughts, arrange your studying material according to what you don't understand. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Download the exam objective and take a look at it and understand the material that you need to understand. The second thing is the book. So the book, this guy right here, is the N10-008 book. As I said, the exam is pretty new, so I had to pre-order this book and then wait for it for about, I think, a week or two. Is it? Because I ordered it last year. So I had to wait for it for a while for it to show up on my doorstep for me to be able to start studying for the exam. It's a 500-page book. It's not that bad. I spent about 1 hour every single day reading. I'll read for 1 hour and then I'll completely stop. A lot of people look at that and say, oh, that's not much, but it works for me. So I was able to finish the book. Sometimes I read more than an hour when I have leisure time. My job was pretty slow around Christmas, around December. So I took full advantage of that, and whenever it was slow, I was reading more and more. So it's a 500-page book. It's a very detailed book. It goes through the exam objective. Again, that's one of the reasons why I love Pearson book. Every time I'm taking a Pearson view exam, I normally get the Pearson book because it just goes according to the exam objective, and it makes life a lot more easier. So the book in itself is a pretty good book. After every chapter, you have a series of questions. Before every chapter, you have do I know this, like 10 question, 15 question, whatever amount of question that they have. Kind of test your knowledge to understand what you know before reading the chapter. After you read the chapter, there's also about 10 to 15 questions that kind of test your knowledge of what you've learned in their previous chapter. And that's one of the reasons why I love the Pearson View book, because of that whole, practice kind of, let's say practice quiz at the end of each chapter. That's one of the reasons why I also very much love Pearson book. The book is pretty good. The book is pretty detailed. It goes according to the exam objective. It breaks things down for you that you don't understand. So if you look up the exam objective and you say, okay, these are the things that I need to understand, these are the things that I already understand, you can use the book that way to study as well. Like, hey, these are the things that I don't understand. Skip the things that you already understand and go to the things that you don't understand, read about it in the book, and then refresh your memory that way. As I said, I was very familiar with the exam already because I took the N10-007, but I still went through the whole book, went through the whole series of questions. I read it from the beginning to the end. So it's a pretty good book and I like it. And another thing I like about this book as well is that it comes with a practice test. So there's like, 3 practice tests in there, 100. So the first practice test, actually there's 3 practice tests as a whole. The first practice test is just the questions in the book. So there's 2 practice tests technically that are not the questions in the book. So you have 2 full practice tests, which is about 100 questions. I went through all 3 of them, one of which was all the questions in the book. So I went through that just to kind of refresh some of the things that were in the book. I went through the 2 practice tests that they have in there as well, which is 100 questions each. So as far as reading material go, this is the book that I used. I liked the book. It was pretty good. Networking is not my thing, but I need to fully understand it. That's why I'm also taking the CCNA. I don't want to be a network engineer in no way, shape, and form, but I need to understand networking. So it helps when you talk to someone and they're talking about things that are network related, you fully understand it. So that's why I'm deciding to go into it. So I wouldn't say I enjoy reading the book, but this is a great book for this particular exam. Next up is the Professor Messer material. Now, the reason why I decided to go with Professor Messer's material, and I'm going to talk about his video course as well, which is free, is because he has laid it out exactly the way it needs to be. So he has, Professor Messer have this thing called a study guide. I used it for my N10-007, and I was like, there's no way I'm not going to use this for my N10-008 to kind of round things up for me. He has done an amazing job on like going through the exam objective and then just kind of breaking it down and highlighting everything that you need to know per objective. Like literally, it is so well done. Like I wish, and he does this, by the way, for the Security Plus, the Network Plus, and the A Plus. So if you need to take any of those exams, make sure you check him out, Professor Messer. I'm going to put a link to his channel and his website down in the description box below. But he has done an amazing job. When I took my N10-007, I used his material, so I was very, very happy with it. So for this one, I definitely bought his material. It's like $20-something. I definitely bought it and then went through the whole thing, and it was pretty good. This is an amazing roundup. I cannot stress it enough. This is an amazing roundup material if you want to round things up before going to go take the exam, because it goes exactly according to the exam objectives. You don't even need to take notes. He's already done it for you. He's already done it for you, and he has organized it to the way it needs to be to help you better understand it. What I will say though is that you cannot just use it. If you're already familiar with the material, I am familiar with the material, I could have possibly just look at this, go through this, and be able to pass the exam. Take practice tests and watch a video and look at this and be able to pass the exam, right? But if you're new to networking, If you're new to IT and you're new to all of this stuff, you cannot just look at this and expect to go pass the exam, even though it's so well organized. You can't. So you have to make sure you couple this with a video series, a book, or some other material, practice tests. We're going to talk about the practice tests that I use, or some other materials to kind of just allow you to better study for the exam. But as far as roundup go, as far as one of the best material that I have used for my old N10-007 and this one, N10-008, is definitely Professor Messer's study guide. So make sure you, it's a PDF version. I think it has a hard copy too of it if you want the hard copy. But I like the PDF version because I will walk around, like after I get out of work, I'll walk around my neighborhood studying, and I will go to the library using my iPad to study and do things like that. So the second material on my list that I use for, the second thing on my list that I use in terms of reading material is this guide, Professor Messer's study guide. As a matter of fact, those are the only two reading material that I used. One is this book, and then number two is Professor Messer's CompTIA N10-008 Network Plus N10-008 study guide. So as far as reading material go, these are the only two materials that I use to kind of help me get ready for the Network Plus. So now let's talk about video materials. Number two, let's talk about the video materials that I use for the exam. So for the video material, I personally use the IT Pro TV video material. I love IT Pro TV. I've been using them a while, especially for all of my CompTIA exams. So I use the IT Pro TV video series for the N10-008. Also, I felt like theirs was a lot more organized and they were quick to come out with it. So that was very big because I said the exam is pretty new. So seeing that they were able to come out with the N10-008 video series pretty quickly, I think they get the objective a little bit early. So they're able to make video series for it before it comes out. So it was pretty good. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I don't enjoy networking, but I enjoyed the video series. I went through the whole video series. Again, even though I'm familiar with the material, even though I took the N10-007, which was a while back, I still, even though I'm very familiar with the material, I still went through the whole thing to just kind of help me better understand it, because I don't want to pay 300 and what is it, 380 something or whatever the price of the exam is. I don't want to pay that twice. No way, Jose. You know, sorry if your name is Jose. I don't want to pay that twice. I want to pay that once and study as much as I can and be able to pass the exam. I don't have a problem with failing an exam. That's fine. You learn and then you go right back at it. But if you can pass it the first time, do the best that you can to try to pass it. So I went through the whole video series for through IT Pro TV. It was great. I enjoyed the video series. When I listened to it, because I'm familiar with the material, I listened to it in 2 speed. You can arrange the speed. I think I listened to it in 1 point something. It was pretty fast, so that just kind of refreshed my memory a little bit. The second time, because I went through the video series twice. The second time I went through it through normal mode, just kind of highlight the thing. I was jumping around though. I would just kind of highlight the things that I don't understand and be able to understand it. So the IT Pro TV video series was great, and I enjoyed it. I'm going to talk about two other video series that I feel like you should definitely try to look at if you don't want to pay for the IT Pro TV. Number one, Jason Dion is definitely something that you need to look at. The video series is great. I didn't go through it for this exam, but when I took my N10-007, I went through his video series for that. N10-007 video series was great, so I'm basing his N10-008 video series off of that. I haven't, full disclosure, I didn't go through his N10-008 series, but all of the other series that I've gone through for him, it's amazing, it's great, and I love it. So make sure if you're looking for a cheaper option, a one-time pay option, make sure you definitely check out Jason Dion. So the next person I'm going to talk about, which just seems like I want to talk about him already, is Professor Messer. Professor Messer is a savior, right? He has put out a series for a lot of the CompTIA exams. He has put out a full series, which is free, and it's on YouTube. I'll link to it down below. So if you do not want to pay anything, you do not want to buy Jason Dion's course, if you do not want to pay for IT Pro TV, Professor Messer's course is really great. well put together, well break down. There's a video series that you can go through that teach you everything that you need to know for the N10-008 exam. So if you do not want to pay anything, make sure you check him out. Make sure you look at his video series. But most importantly, like I said earlier on this guy, make sure it's 25 bucks. I think it's 20 something. I can't remember how much I paid for it. Make sure you buy. Don't try to download it or look for it for free. Don't be cheap, because he put in a lot of work into getting this ready. Make sure you buy his N10-008 study guide. That thing is just a lifesaver. You're gonna look at it and you're gonna be like, man, I wish every exam that I take, someone has taken the time to structure the exam objective for me this way, right? So make sure you definitely check him out, Professor Messer. Link is in the description box below. Free for his video series. Now, if you do want his study guide, PDF, and all those other things, you need to go to his website. I'll put a link in the description box below as well, and be able to look at that and be able to buy that and be able to go use that to go according to the video series. So when you're going through the series, you can look at some of the things, because he goes according to the exam objective, and you can look at the guidelines and be able to go off of that. But that couple, the video series of Professor Mercer, coupled with a study guide, coupled with a couple of practice questions, you should be able to pass the exam. So those are the three things that I recommend in terms of like video material. I personally use the IT Pro TV, but there's also Jason Dion at Udemy, and then there's also Professor Messer at YouTube. So as far as study material, as far as video material go, those are the three materials that I recommend for the N10-008. Let's talk about the practice tests that I use. So I use a couple of practice tests to get ready for this exam. First of which is the practice test that comes with this book. First, the quizzes that are in this book, I went through all of them, so that helps a lot. That helped a lot. And also the book itself comes with 200 question practice tests. I went through both of those. Those were also pretty helpful. I went through them. When I was watching, if I was watching something, I was going through them. If I was, at the library or at the Starbucks, I was going through them. I didn't go through the whole 200 question at once. I just kind of, maybe I would do 10, maybe I would do 5, maybe I would do 30. Whenever I have the free time, I sit down and try to go through those practice tests. So I went through in total about 300 practice questions that comes with this book, 100 of which is 80 something of which is the questions in this book, and the other 200 are free kind of practice questions that they give to you. So I went through all 300 of them, all of the practice tests that came with this book. The second one is IT Pro TV. Again, I love IT Pro TV. I've been using it for a while. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Call me IT Pro TV, call me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I love them and I've been using them for a while. I used their practice test, and when the exam first came out, when I was looking at the video series, the practice test was not there. So I had to wait for a while for the practice test to come out, and then I used their practice test to study for, and coupled with this guide to get ready for the exam. Their practice test is about 400 questions, about 400 questions. 400 questions. Well, but then again, most of their practices are like that. Very well put together. And the thing that I love about IT Pro TV practice test is that if you get the answer wrong, it don't just tell you that the answer is wrong. It breaks it down for you in detail. This is why it's wrong. This is why the wrong answers are wrong. This is why the right answer is right. This is the difference between the right answer and the wrong answer. That is big brain. That is that is very important, because when you're taking a practice test, it's not about cramming or memorizing the practice test. It's about understanding why things are wrong and why things are right, right? Or why the wrong answer is wrong, but also understanding the wrong answer. So if you go to another question where the wrong answer is the right answer, you'll be able to make sense of it. I hope that makes sense. Right? So that's why I love IT Pro TV practice test. And I didn't go through all 400 of them because I've already went through about 300 questions here. I went through 200. So altogether, I went through 500 questions for this exam. 300 here, 200 with IT Pro TV. Now, I was gonna go through all 400, but I was like, nah, let me just go through 200. If I go take the exam and I don't pass it, then I can come back and go through the what I kind of go over the things that I didn't understand, or things that I kind of lack in the exam. I can go back and then take those other 200 questions. But luckily enough for me, I didn't fail the exam. Woo woo! So I went through 200 of the question IT Pro TV, and I went through the 300 questions here. In total, 500 questions for the exam. So those are the practice tests or practice questions that I use for the N10-008. Now do keep in mind that when we're talking about practice question, because I get that question a lot, like, hey, is it the same question in the exam? No, it is not. It is not. We all know, if you've ever taken a CompTIA Plus exam, we all know that they ask you this convoluted question when you look at it and you're like, what? Right? So you need to understand the concept, and you need to understand why things are wrong and why things are right. And that's what the practice tests help with. It doesn't help you memorize it and then go to the exam and then the exam is the same as the practice question. No. The whole idea of a practice exam is to help you understand why the right answer is right and why the wrong answer is wrong. And IT Pro TV practice questions do a great job at that. So in terms of practice questions, those are the only ones that I use for this exam. So that's pretty much it. That's all the material that I used to pass the N10-008. Now again, keep in mind that I'm very familiar with the Network Plus material because I had the N10-007, as I said earlier, and I let that expire. So I'm very familiar with the material. And even though I was familiar with the material, even though I am familiar with the material, I still went through all of this study material just to make sure I don't have to take the exam twice. And if I do have to take it twice, that's fine. Such is life. We live, we learn, we grow. This is what this channel is about. Failure, embracing it, giving it a hug, telling them, I love you, failure, whispering in his ear, failure, come over here. That's what this channel is about. So even if I was to fail it, I would have gone back and then I would have come back and then study harder and then go back and then try to pass it. Because as I said, the Network Plus is the first certificate for me for this year. I wanted to get it out of the way the beginning of the year, and I have. So now what's next for me is my CCNA. I've already scheduled it for April. I've already scheduled my CCNA for April. I've already gotten the book. I already had the book already, as I said, because I wanted to take it last year, but I couldn't take it because I was not in the right state of mind. But that's not a bad thing or anything. Not like that was when I said the right state of mind. It has such a bad connotation to it, but no, just a different situation in life. So I wasn't ready to take the CCNA, but I've already signed up for the exam, as you can see on the screen. I'm hoping to take it either end of February or late April. I'm not 100% sure yet. If I'm ready before then, I will try to take it before then. But if I feel like I'm not ready, I don't want to push it back past April. Even if I go take it and I fail it, I want to try it. So I want to start studying, which I already did actually. I started studying for it already. I want to study as much as I can and try to take it around April. So that's what's next for me, my CCNA. And after that, I want to take my AZ 104. And then after that, we can talk about that after the AZ 104. So that's pretty much what's next for me. This year is going to be an interesting year, an exciting year. There's going to be a lot of things that I want to do for this channel. The channel is growing. I have 600 subscribers now. Thank you. So the channel is growing little by little, so I want to start putting a lot of work into it to grow even more. So that's next. You guys are going to see me play around a lot with my Cisco equipment because I'm going to get ready for the CCNA. So you guys are going to see a lot of good stuff coming. So if you haven't subscribed already, if you haven't turned on your notification already, make sure you do so, because this year it's going to be an interesting year. But anyways, that's pretty much all the material that I use for my N10-008. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any question. And by the way, I've seen you guys sending me a lot of questions. I know I'm busy, but I'm trying to come up with something, maybe a Discord server where, you know, people can join and then we can start having a conversation if some of you guys have questions. I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet, but I'm thinking about something like that. So I am going to try to respond as quickly as I can, but just do know that I'm super busy as well. And I try to put out the video when I have some leisure time, which is not much, but I try. So I will respond to your question. Just give me some time. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. And as always, Do not forget to stay geeking. Do not forget to continue failing and embracing failure. Do not forget to love and whispering failures here. I will see you guys on the next one, and peace.